What if I told you that one of the most powerful financial strategies ever created wasn't invented by bankers, economists, or empires, but by a military philosopher who lived 2,500 years ago, long before stock markets, central banks, or paper money? What if I told you that modern corporations, governments, and financial elites still follow his rules, often without realizing it? Because buried inside Sun Tzu's teachings is a financial logic so dangerous, so effective, that it explains why some empires collapse without losing a single battle, why economic warfare is now more powerful than military force, and why the richest winners in history often never fire a shot. Yet almost nobody teaches this side of Sun Tzu, not in business schools, not in finance books, not in history documentaries. So today, we're going to uncover the financial genius of Sun Tzu, how his ideas quietly shaped economic warfare, resource control, and modern money power. And by the end, you may never look at global economics the same way again. To understand Sun Tzu's financial brilliance, we need to understand the world he was born into. This was ancient China, during the spring and autumn period, moving into the warring states era. China wasn't one unified empire. It was a fractured landscape of rival states, siege fighting endlessly for survival. Wars were constant, armies were massive, and warfare was cripplingly expensive. Most people think ancient wars were simple: swords, soldiers, and strength. They weren't. They were economic disasters. Every campaign drained grain supplies, labor forces, tax revenues. Productive farmland states that won too many wars often collapsed financially afterward. This was the paradox Sun Tzu saw clearly. You could win every battle and still lose the war, because war didn't just kill soldiers, it destroyed economies. And unlike today, there were no central banks to bail you out, no debt markets to refinance failure, no global trade system to rescue shortages. A state that mismanaged resources ceased to exist. This is the environment that shaped Sun Tzu not as a warrior but as a systems thinker. Sun Tzu's first radical idea wasn't about fighting, it was about cost. In The Art of War, he opens with something shocking. War is a matter of vital importance to the state. It is the province of life or death. But then he immediately pivots not to tactics, but to economics. He calculates how much a single campaign costs in grain, how long supply lines drain wealth, how prolonged conflict destroys national strength. This was revolutionary. While other generals focused on battlefield glory, Sun Tzu focused on balance sheets. He understood something that even modern leaders forget. The true battlefield is the economy. Every marching army is an expense. Every delayed victory is compound loss. Every drawn-out war benefits your enemy. This is why Sun Tzu's most famous line is so misunderstood. The supreme art of war is to subdue the enemy without fighting. This isn't philosophy, it's financial logic. If you win without fighting, you preserve your economy. You exhaust your enemy's resources. You inherit functional infrastructure instead of ruins. This is return on investment thinking, 2,500 years before finance textbooks. Sun Tzu's ideas spread because they worked. States that followed his principles didn't just win wars, they outlasted rivals. Here's how his economic strategy actually worked. 1. Attack the enemy's resources, not their armies. Sun Tzu taught that armies are symptoms. Resources are the cause. Instead of destroying soldiers, you disrupt supply lines, manipulate trade routes, force the enemy into overextension. This causes a silent collapse. The enemy still has an army but can't afford to use it. 2. Force the enemy to overspend. One of Sun Tzu's most dangerous insights. When the enemy is active, tire them. Tiring an enemy isn't just physical, it's financial exhaustion. You force them to mobilize constantly, maintain high readiness, spend more than they can sustain. This is how rich states collapse, not from invasion but from overcommitment. 3. Use time as a weapon. Sun Tzu understood something modern finance depends on. Time amplifies advantage. The longer your enemy bleeds resources, the stronger your relative position becomes even if you do nothing. This is economic compounding applied to war. Sun Tzu also warned about a fatal mistake: victory addiction. States that ignored his warnings chased glory. They fought prolonged wars. They expanded too fast. And they broke. History repeats this pattern relentlessly. States drain treasuries, taxes rise, public unrest grows, trade declines, military strength hollowed out. The collapse doesn't look dramatic. It looks administrative, budgetary, boring, until suddenly, the state is gone. Sun Tzu saw this centuries before it happened again and again. His warning was clear. Here's the tragic irony. Leaders know war is expensive. They know debt is dangerous. They know economies matter. Yet they repeat the same mistake. Why? Because short-term power feels real. Military strength is visible. Economic collapse is delayed. Sun Tzu warned against this psychological trap. Leaders mistake activity for progress. By the time financial consequences arrive, the decision-makers are gone. The cost is inherited by citizens. Now here's where this becomes uncomfortable. Sun Tzu's strategy perfectly explains modern financial power. Economic sanctions, they don't attack armies. They attack trade access, currency, stability, domestic confidence. Sun Tzu would recognize this instantly. Debt as control, forcing rivals into unsustainable spending, isn't new. It's classic Sun Tzu. If your opponent must spend more to survive than you do to pressure them, you've already won. Corporate warfare. Big corporations don't destroy competitors directly. They outlast them financially, undercut margins, force consolidation against Sun Tzu's logic. Here's the terrifying truth. Human psychology hasn't changed. Power still blinds leaders. Short-term wins still override long-term survival. Economic consequences still arrive late. Sun Tzu didn't give tactics. He gave a warning system. One that we keep ignoring. Takeaway number 1. The real battlefield is economic wars. Empires and corporations rise and fall based on resources, not strength.